We are recording and we are going live in three, two, one. Oh, I totally fell down that countdown. We are live. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tines. Today we have Matt Kingsley from the Process Outdoors and a new face with us today. This is Christian. You guys are going to see a lot more of him. He helped record our rooster video that we put out where I shot that pheasant earlier in the season. But you're going to be seeing a lot of behind the camera action with Christian. Um, Matt Kingsley, the floor is yours. Go ahead and introduce yourself to those that don't know who you are and how you got your leg up in the process outdoors.
I am sure that nobody knows who I am. I started hunting a long time ago. I'm 36 now, and uh, now it's kind of more about my oldest boy. He's 7 now, getting him in the outdoors. But I had a YouTube channel, just Matt Kingsley, like my name's spelled. Got a couple years worth of stuff. Got some. All the deer you see behind me are probably on that. Uh, some turkey hunting, stuff like that. But then I met Caleb. We actually went to high school kind of together. He was a few years below me. And then he and another guy, Billy Lewis, they started it and they kind of just wanted to share their experience in the outdoors. And you always hear people, anybody that talks about the season and how chasing whitetail is just a process, but they wanted to just make it, that was their idea, was let's just share the process of how we go about doing everything. And then I knew Caleb and we kind of just got together and he was like, hey, I'll bring you on. It's not like, I don't want to say high dollar, but Caleb is very good at the production aspect of it.
I
And
would agree.
then uh, I kind of just do run and gun, kind of guerrilla uh, camera, talk to it quick, and it's kind of choppy. Getting, I grew up editing and with skateboarding and snowboarding, but uh, I don't, I don't want to say I don't care, but I never put music to any of my stuff, mainly because I just didn't want to deal with it. I think that the music definitely sounds better. Caleb's good at that. Anything of mine now that has music, Caleb's done that. So I'll edit it, patch everything together, send it to Caleb, and then he'll finish it up, touch it. Um,
But
but hunting, fishing, all that stuff, just like everybody, Iowa boy, and that's kind of what we're about. Just doing everything, sharing our process, and all of us are starting to have younger slash older children, uh,
yep.
right about the 10-year mark. So
So hunting
just
should get real interesting here real soon.
yeah,
That's awesome, man. Your picture for the cover art that we shared for this, you got both your boys in there. Um, And I do believe I watched a video earlier in the season, in the youth season area, where you took your boy out for a deer hunt and he got a shot on one.
yeah, that was that. Probably 12 hours was probably the best and worst of my hunting career. And I mean, I've had pretty good. If you look behind me, there's some interesting deer, and it's been exciting. But took him out. Uh, I still can't speak highly enough of the 350 Legend and how happy I am that they made that a weapon you could use, let alone the youth. My son is tiny. I mean,
Right.
I'm I'm small anyway, 5'8", 170 pounds, but my boy is, I don't know, 45 inches tall and he doesn't weigh 45 pounds. But he was able to shoot it and it was great. That gun, like you put it on a rest and my son's sitting on my lap and the sling, you know, how with a kid, they're holding the trigger and
Mm,
getting ready to shoot. He's looking through the scope and you can actually, you know, hold the back part of the sling and I'm catching all of that recoil and just able to just hold it like that. And it
yep.
just, it's, he, I did find out we went out during shotgun season and we've got that video working. That's what that picture is from that you shared. That's my shotgun buck. But took Beckett out again, and he wouldn't shoot at a doe, and I couldn't figure out why, and it was because he's afraid of the noise now, so he's kind of gun shy, which is my own fault. We practice and everything with earmuffs, but I'm gonna have to get him a better pair and just start him back at a 22 and just work from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took him out youth season and we went twice. And then his stepdad came with us and he ran the camera and he did a great job. Everything was so perfect. And in the video with Beckett, I think I said like three different times, like, you gonna shoot him? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, like, this is a nice buck for anybody, but I'm like, man, this is your first buck. Like,
Right.
and that thing started out at like 120 yards and it came into 30 at one point. And when it came into 30, I took the scope down from like 5 or 6 power all the way down to 1 or 2. And then it walked back to 70 yards. And I didn't readjust it. And it's my own fault too, because I don't, how to shoot a gun.
Right.
Like for us, it's just boom, you snap shoot and it's there. Like you can do it quick. But the
Right.
first day we went out, there were 3 or 4 deer that came by and they were walking and I got him up and it just, it takes so long for them to acquire through the scope and get the crosshairs and he's standing up or is he going to sit down in the blind on my lap. So then we knew the next time, like basically grab him out of his chair, put him in my lap and then had the gun up and uh, had him just ready. And in the video, you can hear us. It's so funny. I'm like, if you're gonna shoot him, you have to do it now. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not ready. And I'm like, buddy, he's gonna jump the fence.
Right.
And uh, uh, and then he shoots him. And in the video, you see it. I mean, that thing, it shoulder buckles, it jumps the fence, and we celebrate. We're so happy. My dad was at the building that we were building, and he came over and I had another guy from work. Him and his daughter were down in one of our bottoms hunting, and she almost shot a doe. We couldn't find any blood. I sent it to uh, guys from the process. We've got a group chat. Then I'm a part of the urban herd. I help manage social media for them, and I sent it to all of them. And actually, Zach Jacoby, people might know his name on the internet, but uh, he's like, I don't think he hit him. And I'm like, you hit him? And he's like, yeah, but I mean, I don't think he like lethal. And I'm like, no, man. Like, and then he showed it to me, and I'm like, crap, you're right.
Right.
And then my wife actually was the one that was right about everything. She goes, he didn't, well, he missed. And I'm like, what do you mean he missed? Like, look at the video, look at the shoulder, like he 100%. She goes, well, the grass behind him, why did that fall? And I'm like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
And I'm and I'm like, that means if the grass behind it fell and 100% there's a piece of switchgrass and it falls over, and I talk about all this in the video. I ramble anyway, but uh, I'm just like, yep. And we went the next day, and you 100% could see where that piece of grass just exploded, and we found it right above the ground. And I was like, man, he went right through. Uh, I mean, you could say the humerus, but probably more like the radius or ulna, if I mean whatever it would be of the deer,
Right.
just right below the elbow, right below the brisket, just clean shot through. And we've got 4 neighbors that I know that run trail cameras. No one got that deer after that night on camera.
Oh wow.
So we're hoping to find it in the next month or so. Would be
Right.
nice. I mean, there's in Iowa, I didn't run 10 miles, like so. It was it was pretty bummer. The next day, we went and looked for 3 or 4 hours just because you have to, but didn't find anything. Had permission from my neighbor. We walked all over and just nothing. No cameras. No cameras picked it up. So
Right. We dude, I know I semi know the pain of that, but I really understand what you're talking about when it comes down to, well, they're afraid of the gun noise now. So like my daughter, she shot her first buck this year and her first
yeah,
deer.
that video was awesome.
Yeah, dude, like, and we got it actually, I didn't even realize that we got the actual deer shot itself on video until I went to go edit that video because I was planning on them coming out on that food plot, and I didn't care if I got it or not. I was just there for like, hey, this is our first
Hold on
show.
a second. Sorry. Are
Oh,
you
you're
good?
good.
I love you. Speaking of Beckett,
There he is, the man of the
big
hour
one
right
for
there.
the
What's up,
people
big
picking up. We
dog?
just talked about your deer.
She didn't just come.
She's not here yet.
She's not here yet.
Oh, we were talking about your deer.
Cool.
Was that fun? Remember deer hunting?
Mhm.
Are we gonna shoot a turkey this year?
No.
You don't have to shoot the gun,
Okay, you can.
so it won't be loud. See, so we got some work to do with the guns, don't
Got
we?
some work.
We got to figure out how to make them quiet, don't we?
Mhm.
All right, I'll shoot one with my bow for you.
Okay.
I love you. Okay. See you on Sunday.
Okay.
All right.
You're famous now, kid.
Yeah.
So we had. I took my daughter down. We'll back up 2 years. I took her down to the deer camp 2 years ago, and she has shot before and went out, and we're using the same round, 350 Legend. And you know, you're absolutely right. Cannot give enough kudos to that gun because for someone like us, dude, that 350 Legend is it barely shoot it. You know, when it comes in terms of recoil, it's kind of on the lower side of like a 410 style, in between a 20 gauge. Um, and it's ballistics are freaking phenomenal. It's very flat shooting and it's very forgiving, and it does the job primo. It is so good, so lethal. But she wanted to she wanted to see what it felt like to shoot that particular gun, and so I took her out to the gun range, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And it's in a valley, and so sound just bounces off every hill and every tree out there. I wasn't even thinking about it, and I forgot the ear pro back at camp, and I let her rip around. And at that point, it was game over. Just like your boy gunshot. My kid has had like 7 sets of tubes in her ears, so and at the time she had tubes in her ears, so it really freaking messed her up. So we fast forward one more day, and this, I bet you that deer was maybe 80 inches. It hops the fence into the empty cornfield, and she wanted to shoot it, but she was so afraid of the gun sound. We just literally watched it, and I remember her pulling the gun up like 2 or 3 different times, and she just couldn't do it. So we speed up to the year, to the next youth season, and I put earplugs and earmuffs in her on her, and she was not going to stop. She wasn't letting that one go. She shot her buck at 65 yards through the timber, through the chest, and it dropped it like 15 yards from where we shot it. And my oldest was actually in the next blind right next to us. I butted up 2 chair blinds, and she was sleeping in the blind. And how I knew that was because she was like kept on like kicking the blind, and like you can hear her chair moving. And so she like whispers through the window. She goes, "Sissy, stop moving," and fall asleep. Well, she fell asleep, and then she rung that trigger, man, and freaking woke my kid up, and like all of a sudden just shakes. It was freaking so cool, man. And I tell you, when that moment of watching you and Beckett and you figuring out like, oh my God, this just happened. There is no other feeling in the world like it. I can honestly tell you, I would give up every one of my hunts to watch one of my kids hunt. 100%.
Yeah. Like, man, like I said, he was sitting in my lap, like in that video, instantly, like I think the first thing out of my mouth, even before I was like, "You got him." I was like, "I love you so much." Like I was
Right.
just so happy for him, and he was so excited. I don't even know if he realizes that we didn't get the deer.
Right.
He doesn't comprehend that kind of stuff. But the bad thing is he's a little gun shy. But you
Right.
said the 350 Legend that it kicks like a 410. I actually borrowed it from my buddy, and
Did
that's
it?
what he had said. He's like, "Oh man, it's less than a 410,"
Yep.
and it's what I shot my shotgun buck with.
Yes.
And I put it. I guess I put kind of a bad shot on. It was a little back. He was quartering two more than I thought, but that thing, it. I shot the 185 grain round out of it,
Yep.
and uh, I don't know what happened, but it ripped his stomach just wide open. It just right down the middle of
Yep.
his stomach, and then went out behind the hip. We we went out that night and uh, tracked it for. Mm, I mean, I found blood right away. Found a spot, and was just like, okay. And then I went down. And I had to get a buddy and all that stuff. But I think we ended up. I bet we only lived for an hour, honestly, from the time when we started. But it was bad. My dad's like, I don't know, and then it was rough.
Right, dude. I when Sophie shot that buck, she shot him through the chest, and the percussion of the actual round going through his body destroyed his heart, and it
Yeah,
broke his front leg. But it didn't even touch his shoulder or his actual leg, and it went right in between the two, and it absolutely decimated that thing. And to be honest, I was like really in shock and awe that it even was able to run on three legs. But if you get shot, you're not going to stick around and try to figure out how you're getting out of town. But
yeah.
I tell you, uh, that round, I actually built an AR for her because she was using a bolt action Savage Axis, which is a great gun. But I did the AR because like your boy, my daughter is not a very big kid. I'm not a very big human myself, and we shorten that stock as much as possible. And now it's extremely kid friendly. So the AR platform in the 350 Legend, primo.
You still have that access?
It was actually my buddy's gun, but yeah, he still has it.
I was gonna say I'm in the market, so
Absolutely.
that's probably what I'm gonna end up buying. My buddy has the Ruger, and he has the compact,
Yep.
and he bought it for his daughter, and then she went a few times and then never got one. But
Right.
uh, it just yeah, and the fact that they offer in that compact, I mean and we could belabor the point so much. It's if anybody watching this, I think we've got 5 people maybe, but if anybody sees this later, that in Iowa, that if you've got a youth, even for people, I mean, the adult version is basically the 450 Bushmaster,
Yes.
but uh, I mean that 350 Legend, it just shoots so nice, and you don't need anything more.
Alex. Sorry, my dog is going nuts, and now the big dog's going to get the little dog worked up. I apologize. It,
If you'll know pretty quick when my son's mom gets here, probably because our dog will go nuts.
uh, we got James Brandom, who says, "What's up, fellas? Is the offer on the table to possibly join the team until the 28th?" So we are still holding our pro staff opportunity open for those that are watching and whatnot. Great question, James. So you have to go through an application process, and basically you're just going to send us an application. And what I mean by the application, you just message us on our Facebook page. And just kind of tell us who you are and why you would be a good fit for OO, and we'll go from there. And then we talk about it with the guys, and then we kind of go from there, and then we make that decision. Uh, Hold on, just like yeah. I apologize. Apologize for the interruption there.
You can tell that both of us have our studios in our
Yes,
house.
absolutely. Would you have it any other way? I mean, maybe I'll get big enough and I'll be able to have my own like legit studio.
I would like mine to be out at the farm, but
Yes, absolutely, dude. I would love to be out at the front, but there's like three spots there that you get service, and none of those are going to be in studio worthy areas.
my we don't get any service at the farm, and it's fantastic.
It is nice sometimes. It really is. It no one knows it like a deer hunter, man. But deer camp is truly home away from home.
Where do you go in southern Iowa? You've been down there a couple times now, haven't you?
Yeah, so I go down there every year. At least once or twice. But now I'm going to be able to go down there a lot more. But I go down to the Stockport area. We're in Van Buren County. We have some
Is that
private
a
land
house
down there.
here, or is that a family farm, or what?
Family farm. Yep.
Yeah.
So not on my side. The gentleman that owns it is a really good friend of mine and whatnot. He invited me, years ago whenever he kind of first got into it, and so it's really cool. And
Mhm.
we've built a hell of a place down there. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Southern Iowa hunting, man, as you know, here in Scott County, and you remember Scott County back whenever you used to live out here. Scott County, it's got deer, but nothing holds deer like Southern Iowa because it's just they're freaking everywhere.
Illinois does.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was listening to a podcast today, and a guy got on a rant about Southern Iowa, and he was talking about just EHD and CWD,
Hmm.
and if it came here and all that stuff. But then he's talking about Van Buren County has 2,100 antlerless tags, and they never get filled.
Right.
So, and then the county to the west, I'm not sure what it is, but the same. And yeah, I mean, there's so many deer, and I mean, I grew up hunting Makokata
Yeah.
on a private farm, and that's uh, whoops, wrong. I keep going the wrong way. But this, he came from public up by Makokata, uh,
That's a
and
stud.
uh, he was on Pine, what's it called, Pine Valley
Pine
Nature
Valley.
Area.
Yep.
I think you've hunted Buzzard Ridge right by there, right?
Yep. I've hunted both of them. I put more time into buzzard, but I've hunted both pine and buzzard. Pine Valley is an awesome spot for anybody to get in there, but you gotta put your big boy boots on.
Yeah, there. Pine is like 700 some acres. I
Yep.
got lucky. I ended up meet the night I shot that one. I met a landowner that borders up to it. He thought that I was having car trouble, but I was standing on the roof of the truck trying to get service, talking to my buddy to bring the game card up.
Right.
And, then he's like, "Oh, you can just access through my gate." He saved us like probably a 600-yard drag, so that was really nice. And then
And that terrain is not forgiving.
no, not up there. It's not. Anybody watching, it's Jackson County and
Yes.
it's bluff country for Iowa. Other than if you go even further north, up in like Alameda,
Yep.
which I went last shotgun season, and that was really cool. My dad actually, uh, I don't have the news article, but my grandpa, my dad's dad, was in the very first Iowa shotgun season up at Yellow River State Forest.
Nice.
And so we went up. My dad grew up hunting there. Geez, since I think he did it probably close to high school ish. I mean, whatever. But in the 70s, I know he was hunting there. And we met a guy that was a part of a group from Clinton. And he's like, "Oh, I'm the oldest hunter that's ever been hunting here. I've been hunting here 30 years." And my dad's like, I've been doing it for 50. And the guy, "What? Who are you?" Blah, blah, blah. And then they ended up knowing, like, obviously people that knew each other from way back when. And so we did what it was, yeah, two shotgun seasons ago. So it would have been 2020. Yeah. And we were doing the same deer drives that my dad was doing when he was in high school,
Oh, cool.
still producing just the exact same. And
Right.
just all day long. You're just walking the same area, and the deer just circle, and they just keep coming back, and you're just kind of running them down, just making them run. And it was pretty cool. My brother-in-law, he was from South Carolina at the time. He was in the military, and then uh, now they're in North Carolina. But it was his first Iowa buck that he shot, and it was just shy of 150, a nice 10 point.
Nice.
And it was really cool because I like chased it to him.
Mm-hmm.
It came up, and it was, I think it was like the first day, but it was crazy because I like kind of started running with the group of deer that were coming through, and then I saw some orange, and I was like, "Oh!" And so I got behind a tree. I knew he wasn't like shooting towards me, but
Right.
still, I'm like, in case he misses.
Right.
And I was actually tracking the deer in my scope, and then with my open eye, I saw orange, so I stopped, and I was like, "Oh, please be Mike." And then he shot, and I was like, "Hey, was that you?" And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "Did you shoot that buck?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so you go up and celebrate. And it was
Right.
so, but would have been I would have liked to shoot it, but it was
He kind of took it like, uh oh.
well, no, I was just once I saw the orange, I wasn't going to shoot in the direction of anybody. Not that,
Right.
and like you're looking through the scope and you see the orange in your periphery, but the deer is going to him, and I knew it was. I thought it was him, but it could have been anybody in our family.
Right.
That, but it was just I was really happy that because he's not being out of state. I don't know when he'll be back, and he
Right.
might come to family farm, but still, so
And it's almost like, I can understand where you're like, man, I wish I would have really shot that, but it's almost like one of those things like, man, watching someone else do that is freaking amazing. Kind of like with our kids. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm definitely excited for friends, especially if we're all out hunting together. Like get one and one out. But I tell you, and just as well as I do, like I think I was more excited for my daughter when she shot that deer as she was. But I mean, she was freaking pumped. There's no way. But I mean, like I mean, no doubt that she was not pumped. But I mean, I was on cloud 101 where she was on cloud 100, and I I have no idea what came out of my mouth at that point. If it wasn't recorded, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? I blacked out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's and that's kind of like the process. That's what we're all about. Is like, I mean, you know, Carter Lawson. I mean, the kid
Yeah.
that I used to. I mean, I got him his first buck. I got him his first long beard.
Yep.
Just that we care about is just that start to finish, and then just the process, especially with deer. It's such it can be as intensive as you want, whether you're a public land guy or just someone who goes and sits and you've got the same corner stand that you sit every weekend just because you like to be outside.
Right.
But I mean, we do food plot videos and just how to for everything. I mean, I've got uh, our biggest video, I think, is a stand mod video that I made.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I remember seeing that video.
And it's just it's funny how YouTube works, and
Yeah.
when you show videos, the it seems like the how to, unless you kill like a giant deer, it's people don't care about that because every single person out there is putting out videos
Yep.
of tagged giant buck shot,
Right.
but everybody wants to learn how to do stuff. And so like in a couple, probably the next few weeks, Austin Gage, the guy from my bow buck video, he helped me drag it out, but we're burning a bunch of CRP on his ground, and we're going to do videos on how to do these burns. And I think Levi and Andrew, God, those kids are coyote killing machines. Like,
Nice.
and they do this predator. I don't know if it's promoted as a raccoon hunt,
Sure.
but they do this contest, and I think they've won it the last 3 or 4 years. And it's a 24-hour trapping contest, and I think they get like 100 to 100, like 150 plus coons in 24 hours.
Good God.
They have a flatbed trailer and they just load it full, and
Wow.
then this time of year, they're out just killing coyotes
Right.
nonstop every chance they get. They're 20-something-year-old kids, so
Just having a ball.
yeah, just loving life. I think Levi just maybe graduated from Iowa State, but and then Andrew works for the power lines doing like utility work.
Right.
So, working weird schedules. It's good that they can do stuff like that and
Right.
just living their dream and having fun. But
That's
they,
awesome.
that's, and then like urban herd stuff that I work with. Uh, like Zach puts out quite a bit of videos, and he does really, really high quality stuff
Mm-hmm.
to where now he's not even, I think he's releasing it like in episodes, and, uh, but like a year out so that he can really fine tune it. And obviously, you know how it is when you're doing videos by yourself, like, and then he's got a wife and kids and stuff. So,
Right.
but I
Dude, the
mean,
self filming game is not something to be uh, like, oh man, that's got to be so easy, dude. Self filming is a legit art.
yeah,
Filming is a legit art, but I tell you, like self filming, dude, you have to be on point and
oh
lots of fails is what I would call it. Like, oh, hey, fail. Lots of fails to actually get like he's pretty decent. I mean, my hardest thing when it came down to self filming that I was so worried about was keeping the deer in frame. Like you make your shot and then get back on the camera and then move it without losing any bit of that, and people have no idea like how hard that is because you're sitting there watching it. Yeah, that one
This
was
one,
self film, wasn't it?
this one. So each one of these deer, actually, it would go uh, this one, and then there's some that you can't see over here. But this was the first one. I looked the wrong way again because I'm watching the camera. This one, that was an urban buck that I shot, and holy crap!
Man down.
Oh,
Oh crap, he says.
the recliner I'm sitting in completely just Jesus. Uh, that'll be that's gonna help your views, I guess. Well, I moved the camera, so that one, uh, that footage was awesome. He walked in like I think I shot him at 10 yards. Uh, this one that's over my head now, same thing, 10 yards. The
Nice.
one just over my head again, 10 yards, and then actually only this this buck, that
Mm,
public land buck, he's the only one that was shot past maybe 15 yards,
right,
and uh, I had to shoot him at 30, and I had the camera on a doe, thinking that he was going to follow her,
right.
and he didn't, obviously. And then, uh, gosh, I hate that it's reversed.
Drops deer like he drops cameras.
And then that one, what was he? He was a bow buck. He was at like 10 yards.
Nice.
My grandpa shot this muley with a 30-30. I think he shot it like 20 or 30 times.
That's a that's huge.
He shot it. He said that he shot it so many. He knows he shot it so many times because he had to reload.
That's
And then
crazy.
that, sorry, that buck. That was my first or second muzzleloader buck maybe.
Nice.
And ouch, I think I hurt my ankle. The chair. Uh,
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing at this.
yeah, yeah. At least it'll be a memorable podcast
I
for
was like,
anybody
you
watching.
know, I was thinking before we did this video, and before as I've done other videos, obviously everyone's sitting in a chair or whatever, and I'm like, am I ever gonna have a video where a dude's chair just drops out, like just completely, like it's either mine or someone else just freaking down, or something like that gonna happen, and I've been waiting for it, and so I just want to say, good job, Matt. That one's yours, buddy, because
Well,
you dropped the computer.
and I tried to make it more aesthetically pleasing in my office with so you can see the deer. So I had this recliner sitting here instead of an office chair. And then, yeah, didn't know the recliner was going to kick back like that. But
One of the guys on the crew says the rare and elusive Swiss cheese mule.
what's that?
Your mule deer that he was shot like 20, 30 times with 30-30.
Oh, yeah. I didn't shoot it. That was my dad's dad. Uh,
Great
but yeah,
grandpa.
a lever action 30-30. And he said, he goes, I know I shot it so many times because I had to reload.
Just starts dumping lead, just running it. Um, let's talk about the deer that you have. I'm pointing at your deer, but it looks like I'm pointing at mine. But let's
Yeah.
talk about the deer that you got in the urban zone. You and I were talking roughly before we started. Yeah, that bad bitch. Uh,
Actually, uh, urban, he's urban, that one's urban, and then that one's urban too.
nice. So, what is the heaviest deer that you have shot?
That definitely uh, this one. He's field dressed. He was every bit of 300 pounds. Because they did the like biggest deer contest, and they actually did it by weight. And I didn't turn him in because he was like a 150-inch deer,
Right.
and I just assumed, knowing the urban zone, that someone was going to get one bigger, and it was between all the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
But I would have turned him in after the fact for that, maybe, but I didn't. I'd already taken him to the locker, and then after the fact, you had told me that the person that won the contest, their deer weighed like maybe 250 pounds, but either way,
Right.
uh, I couldn't move him dead weight. I mean, moving him around was hard. But then
Right.
getting him into the truck, it's the only deer I've ever actually needed help getting into a vehicle. And I mean, you can look at his brisket where it meets up with my wall there,
It's pretty
and
wide.
then uh, this public land buck. You can look at the difference between their briskets right there. The taxidermist, he actually had to reorder the form 2 different times and pack it with clay and everything because the cape was so large.
Right.
So
That's freaking
he was.
awesome.
I don't have an actual weight for him. Then the one over this one was a public land deer. Also, he's just a nice 8. I mean, I 130 something like that. But he was a really big deer too. He was big because I had to drag him out a damn mile and a half on public.
That sucks.
And but I mean, they're all on video.
Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, all of those they would be at the Matt Kingsley YouTube page.
Sure.
Out on the process, I really should just re-upload them or whatever. But the video was all all of those I think are with just a handy cam.
Nice.
And so a nice little $250 camcorder.
Right.
But just like I said, I do that kind of guerrilla, just running and gunning. So the smaller the camera, the better. And uh, I'm far from professional. It's not what I do for a living. So
Right. You should pull up that picture of that deer that you shot last
it,
year.
This year, you mean?
Yeah. Not to cut you off there, Matt. I apologize for that. But
I just can't hear you.
Oh, I could show the one last year too. I got that one on.
show him the pig, the big one. So Christian here shot like I swear that this deer could have ate him. It was not that he's a big guy, but he's not exactly a small guy. But
I'm about 5'10", 165 pounds.
yeah, he's still a young
You're,
buck.
you're tall then.
Yeah, this thing. We'll see if we can't get the camera show just right. Yeah, there we go. Makes him look like a really, really small person. And we'll get it up there a little bit better for the viewers there. He's a stud. And if you, we'll share this into the comments down below. Actually, we can probably get Sean or Christian to put that
Look
up.
at the neck on that thing.
Yeah, that's a beast. That deer could have ate you.
And I'm 5'8", so I'm definitely not big.
Right.
But
This was last year.
that's hard to do.
That's a stud.
I'm not long arming, and I mean you can just see how big he is.
Let me get
And
that.
So we have
that's that one.
We have a picture of that buck down at the shop down there at B&B in Bettendorf there.
Oh yeah.
I remember that. I remember you came in and you showed me a picture of it. And I'm like, dude, you got to bring in a picture for that one.
So how's your focus on your camera?
Oh, the focus? Well, we really screwed it up whenever we were trying to get the pictures of the phone there.
How's that for a doe?
That's a beast of a doe. So we were talking about heavy deer. Man, this thing's all whacked out of focus now. We're having a great. See, you dropped your camera or your phone or your computer there, and now
I dropped the whole computer.
you dropped the whole computer, and now we can't get this damn thing to focus here. All right, we're looking great. We're looking really great.
Professional.
I bought this camera. Kurt from Working Class actually recommended this camera, this webcam for me, because before it was like super foggy and like unpixelated, and it was probably more like it looked like a $30 camera setup, and it wasn't working very well. But he recommended this, and it's working really good up to now. And like, focus
That's better. It
was, and
I think it's picking up the light from behind you. I'm not sure though.
it probably. We're gonna try one thing real quick. We're gonna zap the lights here in a minute. I can't take this. There we go.
I got worse.
You got worse?
I got worse.
Alright, we're gonna have to roll with this. We're sorry, John.
Technical difficulties.
So this deer here, in the background looks like he's pretty dinky. And the focus makes him look a lot heavier mass wise. But this deer, just taking a look at this thing, he's pretty wide. You could sit in it. Uh,
What deer is that?
this is the 8 point that I shot at 40 yards with my bow 2 years
Okay.
ago. This was my county buck, and I have this on a video, but he's pretty wide. And standing where he was standing, he was looking like a 4.5 year old. Uh,
It's just getting worse by the second.
is it just getting worse by the second here?
Mm-hmm.
I think the camera's getting drunk. This isn't working. Um, this is. We're gonna shut this here real quick. Open that bad boy. Come on, work. This is.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we go. All right.
There it is. All right.
Finally.
Good
All
to
right.
go.
Good. Anyway, so my whole goal with shooting every buck that I shoot, I obviously, like most, I try to get a bigger one the next time, and see how far we can go with it. So the one deer that I shot before him, he can actually sit inside of his rack, but he measured out 126 and a half. He was a 13 point, solid mass all the way around, very much like your 130 class back there. This one was a little bit more spindly, but just freaking wide and tall. And I'm like, holy smokes, man. And at 40 yards, he looked like a beast. I'm like, that's a 140 class, 4.5. I'm taking him. And I was going to shoot him at 30, but he didn't end up coming up that way. And he was in the wide open field, and coyotes went nuts. And so he stood there, and I was like, well, this is my chance. And he wasn't doing anything, spooky or not. He just kind of stood his ground. And he very well may have been 4.5, but I'm definitely kind of going with the 3.5. Brock Seiler says, "Oh, it's so cute." Not all of us can shoot the big 170s, Brock. But
Well,
I,
yeah.
I put a tape to that thing, or a buddy of mine put a tape to that, and he measured out 117. I know for an 8 point, it's like, so that 10th or that 9th to 10th time really helps out, but there was a lot of ground shrinkage on that, man. When I got up to it, I really honestly kind of did one of these as I was looking on the ground, like, is that my deer? There's no way this is my deer.
Man, we were talking ground shrinkage. I thought that this year, my bow buck, I thought I shot 140, 150 inch 8 point, and I know what those look like. Like, I have a couple of them,
Right.
and it, it's it's as embarrassing as dropping your computer while you're on a live podcast. And I'm embarrassing isn't the right word. I'd rather shoot the deer every day, but
Right.
it ended up being a 111,
Oh, wow.
and the it ended up being a 6 point, not an 8 point, and that's like you want to talk about strategies and the process, like relying on trail cameras to do work for you, stuff like that, which we're very big on,
Right.
but I had trail camera photos of a big, heavy 8 point with long G2s.
Yep.
And this deer was down in a creek bottom 100 yards from me. And I saw him walk down there, but this doe was right next to me too. I pulled up my binos quick, saw the G2s, just assumed it was him. And then he just, I had a small 80-inch buck with me too. And
Oh, sure.
then he came in and completely just I shot him, obviously, but when they're walking at you and running away from you after you shoot them,
Yeah.
and then direct, so like you were talking about trying to get them on camera. I'm getting my camera set up, and I was in a saddle, which I don't like, and then, but it was all I had available that day.
I
And
love
then,
mine. Love it.
it obviously worked. The deer's dead, but trying to do stuff, and he ended up I was chewing on sunflower seeds and then spitting out the shells, and he actually rubbed up against my tree and then was smelling the shells, and so I was baiting him, and
Nice.
uh, then he jumped back. I shot him at like 3 yards,
Wow.
and but right through the heart, good. I've got a good setup. I pull 82 pounds and then heavy arrows. So he ran, called my buddy, and we got up to him. he was actually getting gored by another buck when we
Nice.
walked up there. I think it was November 5th, and uh, it was a great experience, and it was the first buck on the farm. But it was for all the deer we have. I mean, if you depending on how you look at cull bucks and how you do it
Right.
for setting up a property, I don't agree with cull bucks for
Right.
the fact of oh he's a little buck, just shoot him.
Call him a cold buck and then get my
Yeah,
ego back.
I think that Don Higgins probably says it the best is you let deer get to 3 years old, you see what their antlers are doing, and then you so like if each one of these deer were 3 year olds,
Mm-hmm.
which one would you shoot?
Oh, sure.
So that's the way he looks at it. Obviously, 9 out of 10 times, everybody's shooting the 160,
Right.
but in reality, if they're all 3 year olds, you should shoot this one that's like a 120 low 130s 7 point, but you're not going to. In reality, though, that deer was like 9 years old.
Oh, sure.
I have trail cam photos of him, and he looked just like that. That was an urban buck, and I had trail cam photos of him for 4 years, and he
Nice.
looked just like that. And I think he was so old and deteriorated that he never shed his velvet. In
Oh,
like
really?
it was October 19 something when I shot him, and he was rutting, if you will. There was definitely a hot doe just by the way he was acting, which the urban zones, you know how they are.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
everything was crazy out of whack. But
Yeah.
when I heard him talk about it on his podcast about how he does culling, and I actually like he came to Iowa this year and he was looking for help on to find public lands and stuff. And I told
Oh,
him,
sure.
go to Pine Valley. And I know he put cameras up. I don't know how much he hunted it. He said he didn't think it wasn't progressing for him, and he ended up hunting somewhere else. I'm not going to say where that was, but like
That's the secret
then I
spot.
sent him a picture of mine, and I was like, I thought it was a big deer, but I'm glad that it was out of there because that buck, I saw him push some other deer around, and it's not
Sure.
what you want.
Right.
Uh, I wanted him to be a 5 or 6 year old, and I still wish he was, but in reality, he was probably a 3 year old. And then same thing with my shotgun buck. That was a bummer, uh, but it's part of the process. And
Right.
he's an 11
Come on,
point,
man.
and
My daughter
the
let my
way he
dog out.
up,
Now it's up to
I
us to
thought
let him in.
I thought he was just going to be a giant. We've got a good 12 and a big 10, and I saw that 6 on one side, and I was like, oh, it's him. And then going back through photos, I had photos of this buck, and I was like, poop.
Right.
Perfect
So,
broadside photos, and you can just tell he's a young deer. And but I actually saved his teeth, and that's really the only way, unless you have photos of them from their first set of antlers, and you can somehow
right.
track is sending in their teeth. And there's people that even dispute that that's accurate. But I mean, if they're telling you that it's a 5+ old deer, that's when they start messing up. I think that they have very good accuracy up until that they might say it's 5 and it could be 7, or it's 7 and they
Right.
say it's 5. But at that point, one, we're in Iowa, which that's a mature deer. But if
Right.
you're in Michigan sending in teeth and they say it's a 3 year old, that's an extremely mature deer. Like they don't, depending on where you're at, and
Right.
then the South stuff like that. But
So James Brandom says they all look bigger through the peep sight. Killing
yeah,
bigger, older deer is awesome, but killing deer in general is still fun. You're absolutely correct. There was that deer definitely. Like I said, I was like, man, there he is. That's the one I'm after. Like that's what I'm after. Because I never had pictures of this deer. Like the farm that I was on, I never had cameras on it. I did put a camera on it eventually, but it was after I shot him. I wanted to see what else was running out and around there, and now I've got a camera down south set up, and we're getting ready to do a couple. I just dropped my beer. Don't worry, fellas. It's closed, and there's proof it's closed. But I'm gonna be able to drink that one here for a minute. But we're doing a really nice setup this year, and I should be able to. There's a deer that I'm after down there that I pulled back on, and all five of my pins sat inside his chest cavity at 20 some yards, and I was on the ground on my knees. But there was just like this fence post in the way, and he wouldn't commit to one more step to death. So I got to watch him run away, but um, what I'm doing is he's kind of in the same stretch of timber, but he's on property that we don't have access to. So I'm hoping that this actually brings him out and whatnot. Kind of very much like what you guys talked about with your process and whatnot. Roger, I really hope I say your last name right, but Keeley, Matt, super proud of the hunter you've become, Dad.
Oh, Roger Kiley. Thanks, Dad. My dad was so Roger is my my uncle, aunt's husband.
Oh,
They're
sure.
at my parents' house, and so that means my dad's watching. So
Nice.
couldn't have done it without you, Pop.
You're the man.
Hope you didn't see me fall over in that chair.
I hope it. And that's going on YouTube, bud. Anybody and everybody that watches that is gonna see it, and I'm definitely gonna put it in the highlights. Mom wants
We're
a
old
shout out
enough.
too.
We're old enough to know that. Mom, you're the best. Uh, that I wonder how many viewers we have, because that's probably like 7% of them right there, or 70. I mean, who knows?
it'll only go up in time, man. That's for sure.
Uh,
So
but no, like you talk about, your habitat stuff. That's my dad. They're in Florida right now, but he'll be here in 4 or 5 days, and we'll be down doing a lot of TSI work at the farm.
sure.
And
So for those
man,
that are trying to, not meaning to cut you off, but those that are kind of new into developing their property or developing an idea to try to make, something like this happen, or, like what you got going on, or something to try to gain, explain to them in brief, real quick, what is TSI? What's that stand for? And
so
why that's important.
TSI, that specifically is timber stand improvement, and there's so much. Depends on the property you have, where you're at geographically. Like being in southern Iowa, we've got some cedars we're going to open up, some switchgrass we're planting, a plot screen, which we're actually doing switchgrass and miscanthus because we don't want to completely block it off. We want it's on our road, the
Mm-hmm.
level B, and so it's our south border. We want deer to be able to come and go, but we don't want people to be able to see. And then it'll hold some pheasant, hopefully quail, maybe. But uh, I mean, your NRCS office is probably the best way to go. Or like for Iowa people, you can just go into the forestry section. We actually had a forester walk with us the property, and he put together a stewardship plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem you run into with that is the things that are important to me are right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I care about. But the, for the deer, you want to also think about the small game, because if
Right.
rabbits, pheasant, stuff like that, other creatures of edge that like cover, you want them to be there. But the problem is, the more small game you have, the more predators you're going to have. The more
Right.
predators you have, the less deer you're going to have.
Right.
So it's weird, uh, uh, rotating wheel, merry-go-round, if you will, where you've got to find a good balance. Where for us, we're pretty lucky. I mean, and by we, I mean me, because my parents are retired
Mm-hmm.
and they invested in property, and
Right.
so uh, we got lucky. I always said I'd never be that guy, but I found my dad some property to retire on.
There you
And
go.
then we started with a 40, and then my dad just randomly having a conversation with the neighbor. Uh, they remembered us when they went to sell, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to sell to you guys. You want it to be a family farm," so it worked out. But as far as like TSI and that stuff, I mean, there's edge feathering,
Mm-hmm.
which is I look at it as a really important thing because as a whitetail hunter, you generally are hunting some sort of edge, whether
Right.
it's a bedding area, and if you're big fields, which most of Iowa is ag country, so you want to, 30 yards into the timber, you've got trees and grass and just that. If you think of any Iowa field, you've got a grass buffer, and then there's some down trees, and then maybe some cedars, and then
Yep.
it gets in your bigger walnuts and oaks and stuff like that. And you're going to drop trees, make it as thick as you can. But it's really weird because the forester we work with, he's like, you've got to get rid of this and this and this, but you want to build this and this and this. And we're kind of like, that's what we want to do, but we don't want to because he wants us to get rid of a lot of cover, which we agree with him because it is honeysuckle and it's an invasive.
Right.
We don't want to obliterate it, which if you do that, you have to do it every single year. You're constantly working. Where we kind of want to get rid of parts, but we're putting food plots in other areas. And so for me, food is key. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think Caleb on one of his properties, I think, is working to create some cover, but you're just constantly trying to figure out what your neighbors have and what you don't have, or
Sure.
what you have and what your neighbors don't have. And you need to just uh, someone's I've heard people talk about it like the lowest hole in the bucket, and or if you think of like the food pyramid, kind of think of it like that,
Yep.
where they'll put cover on the bottom, and it's way out here and you need as much cover as possible, and then food is next, and so on and so on. But then I talked about Don Higgins earlier. He talks about looking at it like a checkers board or a chessboard, and you want to look at that 30,000 view like a plane flying over.
Right.
When you look at, so like people zoom in on their property and they are like, I need to do this, this, and this here. But then if you zoom out to where you can see your neighbor's 40 or 20,000 acres, maybe because you're in Iowa, whatever, but then you put in I don't know, a tenth an acre food plot,
Mm-hmm.
but your neighbor has 40 acres of food. Well, the deer aren't coming to your food. You need to work on your cover probably so that you can have the bedding, and
Right.
when they're going from your neighbor, and don't hunt in the bedding, hunt on the way to the bedding. And so that's what a lot of like our videos, specifically like the little ones that I've been making. Last year I did a food plot series that had burning. Uh, those are going to be coming up again. Like I said, Austin and I are going to do a bunch of burning. We're going to have like 50-degree weather this week in Iowa. All the
Yep.
snow is going to melt if it's dry enough. And my dad and I will burn. I mean, we're we're going to be cutting down a lot of trees this next week.
That'll
But
be
then,
that'll be very very key on to your further upcoming seasons and whatnot. I absolutely agree. Talking with a lot and whatnot, you have to, and really when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. You have to give your deer options that they might have elsewhere, but it's like, hey, this is much better. They're gonna hit that 200-acre cornfield before they come up to your 3-acre cornfield. So you have to make it, a lot more appeasing cover wise, or hey, this is right next to the bedroom. So it's a lot easier for me to get to here because deer all day long will take the least path of resistance, and then therefore they're also going to try to keep home, in that same parameter. So I absolutely agree.
yeah, and uh, it's weird too, like chemical stuff like that. Uh, oof. I just bought a couple of gallons of Glide Roundup, if people don't know, but there was an easy $100. I mean,
Right,
uh, this year, a lot of us were talking. We were talking earlier. How are we going to control weeds without spraying?
right.
So, I mean, stuff like that. And yeah, uh,
I would like to very much. There's a couple other people that I've talked to. I would like to very much get in on. Maybe we can ask our viewers how to think about this, but like a legit talking signs on strictly, like TSI and land improvement to like maybe we can all brainstorm and make something big, and actually bring together a huge video where somebody can be like, man, dude, we need to try that out, and just hope for the best with their success.
And there's so much. I mean, you had Kurt from Working Class on here, and I don't know which one of them it was, but I think they have like a 1 or 2 acre piece where
Right.
they just went in and cut down like every single tree and made it an absolute maze, but made it so the deer could come in. And uh, I know we're at an hour already, but that's kind of what I'm going to do this year. I have a bunch of chestnuts, sawtooth oak, and apple seeds,
Yep.
and I'm going to plant all of them around or every food plot I have. I'm going to plant like 20 to 30 of each, and some are going to make it, some aren't. I'll probably
Right.
have to kill some later. Maybe I can transplant them. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing. Then others, like I'll be hinge cutting trees and dropping trees to make
Right.
stuff, and we've got some bedding areas. I'm just gonna plant trees in those down trees,
There you
and
go.
I think like as a tornado, that's how nature works. Why won't it work? So
Right. No, that'll definitely be. I'm definitely interested to see how that turns out, man. But we are on our hour, and I do have to go pick up my wife from work, so I do apologize for that. But we're definitely going to be seeing Matt here really soon again on the show, and we're definitely going to be following up with how his plan is going with what he's talking about. For all of our viewers, thank you for watching. Matt, thanks for coming on the show. Christian, way to make your appearance today.
good talking to you guys, Tim.
I hope your computer is okay after this. It turns on after you turn it back off. I hope that was amazing. It went down.
You'll have to go in and post edit it somehow. I'm sure that my face in slow motion of the computer going back and my face going back. I'm sure it's great.
It was. I think the comment after it was like, "Oh Jesus!" It was hilarious. But either way, everybody, thanks for enjoying today's show of Talking Tines on here exclusively on Outdoors Obsessions. Don't be afraid to go on over there to the Process Outdoors and give them a follow, a like, and a subscribe. Do yourself a favor and do that as well here. Turn the bell on, and we will see you guys next time. You guys take care and peace.